Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to Couch Conversations with the Doctors, where health is wealth. What night is it tonight? It is Monday night, and it's time for Couch Conversations with the Doctors. So, as always, we're going to go around and introduce our esteemed panel guests that we have here with us on this Monday, December 1st, which is World AIDS Day. Starting with the man who says that I threatened him to be here on Mondays, but he is always here and on time unless he's vacation, and that's our very own Dr. James Miller. Dr. Miller?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. James Miller. I am a retired internist. I retired in 2019 after having a practice for about 41 years, I believe. Even though I don't do clinical medicine in terms of what I do every day, I'm still interested in doing as much as I can to heal the community. And we do need a lot of healing. Uh, and we have so much stress and so many different kinds of problems that are going on. So, but we try to do what we can in terms of helping and teaching and instructing and in answering questions and trying to help people to navigate their way through these difficult times. And it seems like the more difficult the times get, that additional things keep jumping on and adding on. So it's a tough time, but again, we're here to talk about some of these tough issues and some of these difficult problems, and trying to figure out what we can do to try to make it a little bit easier. So that's my story.
Outstanding. Well, to my colleague that tends to leave me and go and have fun in the sun, that's our very own Dr. Douglas Graham. Dr. Graham, you're muted,
You
Doug.
Thank you, Nikki. I was just going to say that I'm where it's warm, but not nearly as hot as the Bears running game. I'm a retired physician. I spent 30 years working in the western suburbs like Dr. Miller. And after that, I joined the congressman in his office. And it really opened my eyes to public health and public service. It's really an honor to be here, included on this panel. And I'm going to do my best to answer your questions as best I can.
Outstanding. And to that doctor that's known as Dr. 100, that's our very own Dr. Maya Green. Dr. Green.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Nikki and Congressman, for hosting it. I'm excited about the topic tonight. It's a topic close, near, and dear to my heart. I'm glad to share it with and learn from community. I got those slides, and I know we had some trouble. Nikki, I put in for 2 me's. Let's see if we can share them. I would love that. Oh, yeah, that's wonderful. Okay. All right. And Nikki, whenever you're ready, I can go ahead and start, or we can go ahead
Well,
and do more
December,
introductions.
December 1st is World AIDS Day, and let's give that conversation. So, Dr. Green, go right ahead.
All right. My name is Dr. Maya Green. Disparity is what we're going to talk about, and we're because that's at the heart of it, especially right now where there's so many attempts at federal cuts to dismantle the progress we've made in prevention and treatment for HIV. We got to talk about it. The first slide from here was cultural work. Nikki, I know we're short on time. We're running late, so I'm not going to get there. But at the heart, we got to do the cultural work. Okay. All right. I'll skip. We're going to
Well,
talk
you're
about
okay. Take
historical,
your time.
social. Okay. Thank you.
You're
Talk about
okay. Take your time.
historical. So, thank you. So, historical, social, biomedical context of where we are now, and then talk about a little bit of strategy. Community, chime in anytime. I'm going to ask my teammates to help me because I don't see the chat. I can only see the 2 screens I'm trying to manage. Okay. All right. So the impacts of HIV on the Black community, most underserved community, we'll talk there because everything kind of builds from that, right? So look at the impact on African Americans in the U.S. 1.2 people in the U.S. are currently living with HIV. If you just bring that to our area, that's about 22,000 people living with HIV. And new diagnosis, even though African Americans account for, it says 15% of new diagnoses. We're making up close to 12% of the US population. We're making up about 40% of the new diagnosis. That number, when you look at who's dying of HIV. So 40% of people living with HIV, new diagnosis, but 43% of people dying of HIV at a time when nobody needs to die of HIV. There's prevention, there's treatment, so people live a healthy, long life. It's all baked into it. What we're looking at now is the life expectancy in Chicago. If you look, there's a disparity about 8 years all over Chicago. But if you look at Streeterville and Inglewood, that disparity is about 30 years of Black people living a life 30 years less than our white peers. I always use this slide because here's where it's baked in, and here's why it's important to get active on a national scale. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, among them being life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Look who is writing that in that picture. The suggestion and what we're seeing in the picture of HIV is every time you don't match up with that, if you think about it as an onion, you'll see an onion. Every layer, whether you're white, male, declared Christian, declared heterosexual, affluent, all those are layers that actually build protection, get you closer to what we're seeing in this picture. And in my community, all men are created equal with unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They said what they said, but that's just who they was talking about right there in that picture, right? And that's what they meant by all men. Because remember, at that point in time, certain ethnicities, certain backgrounds weren't considered whole men, right? And when they said that, they weren't even considering women, right? So they go on to create this. This is from the video of a book called Political Determinants of Health. When they said they're endowed by life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, that looks like the picture on the left, right? And what they meant intentionally for everybody that was not matching everything that was in that room, down to the religion, everything that doesn't match was what we see on the right, where we'll see resources, but they'll take them, put them back, move them around, things like that. Where on the left, we see an area where people can pursue life with happiness, right? What that does is create something called adverse childhood events systemically, right? So in these environments, you're going to see more physical abuse, more emotional abuse, more sexual abuse, more emotional abuse. And every time you can check off one of those things, you increase your chances of going into a system where things aren't equitable for you. In fact, if you score, this is from a quiz, a screening called Adverse Childhood. If you score 4 or more of these, look at them. Do you have a relative that experienced substance use, was incarcerated, diagnosed or undiagnosed mental illness? Was your mother treated violently? Did you experience family divorce? Any of those things, 4 or more, you're more likely to end up having a burden of social determinants of health or living it, right? So when we unpack the onion and we say, hey, we're going to talk about World AIDS Day. HIV specialty is one of the things that I offer patients. I'm a family medicine doctor, so I see everybody. But if you look, that's only 20% of your health outcome. Nikki, you call me? No, that's only 20% of your health outcome. Clinical care. The rest of it is your health behaviors, whether you're in a place where you're smoking, but tobacco actually helps you with stress relief, right? Where you are in a place with food apartheid, you don't have the healthy restaurants in your area, whether you had access to be able to achieve education, whether your physical environment is built with quality. We know there are neighborhoods where they now study the water and it's not healthy. They studied the air. Remember when all Yale Gardens, that kind of thing. That's the rest of it. 20% is what I'm going to do. That means 80% is everything else. Now you see my onion. That's when we start unpacking the onion. The layers are falling off. There's books about this: Poverty in America, Medical Apartheid Under the Skin, Political Determinants of Health. So many more books about this because we know this. In fact, in 1984, that was when the first research landed where we knew that African American populations were going to bear the brunt of the epidemic of HIV. 1984, right? That's the earliest we knew. And how is this baked in? There are nested levels of health influence. How we think about ourselves as individuals, whether or not we're going to get screened. We want to talk about it, whether or not we feel empowered to go in our doctor's office and ask for these screenings. How we relate to each other, whether or not we hold each other up, have these conversations, normalize total health in our communities, right? And on the macro, how we're being influenced. Right now, they're cutting resources for HIV prevention and treatment. And Black and brown communities are going to bear the brunt first and fast. We'll see it. We see it in the states where Medicaid is cut. We see it. Let me try and see if this doll experiment can show. Let's see what happens when I click it. Okay, we got a little action going here. Let me know if you can hear it. If you can't hear it, then I won't do it. No, you can't hear it. But essentially, Dr. Kenneth Clark and Dr. Mamie Clark, decades ago, started this thing called the doll experiment. They gave these dolls to children of all backgrounds, and the children consistently decided to play with those white dolls versus the black dolls, right? We saw it, we knew it, we think it's, and for those, if you're saying, oh, that's awful, I hate that happened back then. This video, and it's called, look at it, and you can YouTube it. This young lady right here actually repeated the experiment again a couple of years ago in the US, and the same results were had. They were stepping on the black dolls, taking their heads off, those kind of things. What does that look like when we're adults? Right now, over 300,000 African American women have gotten fired under this administration because of the inequity, because of how we view different people differently in our different lives. I'll move on to the next. Let me stop it for bandwidth, and I'll move on to the next slide. Well, I think I'm gonna move on to the next slide. I'm gonna try to move on to the next slide. Let's see. Okay, and what does that mean when we have that self-hate? Here's a picture, and this is a study of our actual DNA in the bumpers. You all have heard me talk about the bumper cars to our DNAs, the telomeres, under stress, when we're losing our jobs, when we're bearing the brunt because they're cutting funds. We already know from COVID what it means when there's limited resources. So first step, cut the resources. Second step, say there's limited resources. They get shifted out of our communities, right? And our telomeres are cut, we end up with more cortisol and more issues, right? And then building on what we know. So historically, when we talk about HIV is human immunodeficiency virus. It's an infection of the immune system. So everybody with an immune system should really get screened annually. So you know how you go get diabetes screening, cholesterol screening, you get your cholesterol, your artery screen, you get your heart screened. Why not get your immune system screened also? That's very important. And you can get it done once a year for everyone. Here's why. Because we've tried to put HIV in a box. 91% of Black women who get HIV get it from their male heterosexual partners. And before we try to put labels on the male heterosexual partners, I'll remind you, literally the funding that they're cutting is called Ryan White funding. And who was Ryan White? A white 11-year-old boy from Indiana that got HIV when there was a blood transfusion opportunity. So that speaks to the fact that not all the time is sex even involved. Excuse me. 1 second. No, sorry. Sorry about that. I was trying to get them the background noise. All right. So what does that mean? That means when we see HIV, hepatitis, things like that, we have to do the work of looking down here. I don't know if you can see my arrow, because that's where the inequities and social determinants of health. I always talk about a tree. You can name this tree anything. Today we're naming it HIV. People living with HIV live a long, healthy life. Then what happens to the roots? They cut the funding, they cut the access, and then they're going to say it's an epidemic, right? Because the cases are going to follow the resources. Lack of resources is increased incidence. Always, every time. When we know HIV is a disease that's totally treatable. So over here we have someone that's the blood of someone not living with HIV on the left, the goal is to keep the virus down, because 0 times in history has someone living with HIV transmitted it to anyone, right? Yet in this environment, we know HIV affects all these systems of the body. So why not screen every year, right? Taking the blinders off. And here's the problem. Even though we know HIV infects the whole system, think about it. If you can hear me, think about whether or not you got screened this year, last year, things like that. And then think about a worse disease than HIV, stigma, where we say, I don't need to get screened. Or sometimes you go to the doctor and your doctor says you don't need to get screened. I propose you get it screened every time you get your immune system screened, every time you screen for diabetes, cholesterol, things like that. I'll show you a slide. Oh, later on, it'll come a slide where there are different ways. You can get it through mother to baby, blood transfusion, like the entire program HIV is funded under, not someone that was homosexual, heterosexual, anything, didn't have anything to do with that. The funding is right there, right in the book. It's clear. There are plenty of other ways that you can get it, but if you catch it early, you live a long, healthy life. Not only that, we're at a point now where there's prevention for HIV. It can come in a daily pill. It can come in every other month injection. It can come in every 6-month injection. It's not just for people men who experience sex with men. They literally studied it in heterosexual women. Why? Because it's important, right? So we have to change the language of what we talk about HIV in our community, right? And so we know that even though PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis, a medicine you can take ahead of time. So if your body ever comes into contact with HIV, you will be protected. I have patients that say, well, I don't want to take the daily pill because I'm not having sex. Take the every 6-month shot. If in the next 6 months you may do it, then and you have an immune system, and you have an immune system, and you have an immune system, then this is right for you. All right. And here's the thing where we have to, I'll stop there. Any questions from the colleagues? I don't want to, Nikki, I'll go on and on about it if you.
Yes, I have a quick question. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing. And thank you. You just enlightened me to something I never heard of, and that's getting immune system tests, right? For just for regular. So I know we're talking about HIV, but will it also catch other things as well if you get an immune test?
Yeah, and the screening for HIV, I love this question. The screening for HIV is specific, right? Your doctor actually also screens other things in your immune system, but not this, when they get that thing called a CBC. Like we're looking at it. The CBC is made up of components of your blood cells that come in and defend your body. Your immune system's purpose is to defend your body. I'll tell you a little story, right? If I am the immune system and something comes in, if I scratch you, you're going to get swelling because the immune system is going to say, there's something in my body. It's not pesticide. I can't see. I think that's you. Pesticide. It is somebody I don't know. So I'm going to swell up the immune system. Your body soldiers is going to check it out, right? And then that immune system then deals with it. It kicks butt. It takes names. And you've heard me say that before. But when I was thinking in my nerd time this year, I said, and Dr. Doug, you're going to love this. After the immune system kicks butt and takes names, it goes and tells his auntie, because in the community, the auntie is always sitting on the porch. They'll tell you. When somebody come looking, they say, they're not there. They be like, they're around the corner, And in my community, I call it aunties, my aunties. And in the body, those things are called antibodies. So when you screen for HIV, they're actually looking at the antibodies, and the antibodies going to tell us whether HIV has been trying to attack your system or not, right? So the CBC will look at your immune system. You ask for it, and the guideline is once a year, every year. And you shouldn't have to ask for it. It's supposed to be screening, but in our community, because of stigma, a lot of times you do have to ask for it. You have to ask for your HIV screening. I encourage you to.
Is this
Did that
test
answer,
normally
Pastor
covered by
Tom?
insurance? Yes, indeed. Thank you. Is this test normally covered by insurance?
So here's the thing. It's supposed to be totally covered by insurance today. But if you look at what was written in ugly bills and stuff like that, not only are they cutting the funding, they're trying to change whether or not prevention screening is covered.
Mm.
And
That's why we gotta read it. Huh?
and that's why advocacy is so important as a part of the cure or as a part of the treatment. And of course, I'm delighted that I managed to get here before the end of the hour. I just got off the plane, but I started my day with a meeting with the president of the University of Illinois Systems. And, want to acknowledge the tremendous work that they have done. But I also want to mention work that was done by three guys that we used to call the Three Musketeers, who contributed so much to where we are today. Ben Montgomery, Michael O'Connor, and Mark Lovelace. Now, both Michael is still with us. Ben and Mark have moved on, and they're in another world. But we call them the Three Musketeers of HIV, AIDS advocacy, and treatment. All three of them were gay men, serious men who advocated so strenuously and brought so much to bear. They were very instrumental in creation of the Course Center. And I don't want to miss them because Ruth Rothstein, John Stroger, Henry Crown, and the development of the Course Center did so much to bring us to this point where we can praise those who spent countless hours working on the issue, where we got it to the point of where we are now. And to think that there are those in our society who would want to take away some of what we have learned, take away some of the treatment modalities that have been developed, and take away the funding that it takes to provide the research to make this all possible. I was struggling hard to make sure that I got here in time to thank those of you who are on the panel, and thank you, Doctor, for the, just the tremendous lesson that you've given to all of us. But I want to make sure that we understand that we can go backwards if we're not careful.
Yeah.
And if we don't continue the advocacy, because we're only halfway to yonder shore. And as much progress as we have made, there is still a long way to go. So thank those of you who are on tonight. Thanks to those who are on every night and every time we do this, because it just takes the continuous flow of information, knowledge, determination, and implementation to make it happen. So I give a great shout out to those over at the Ruth Rothstein Course Center. And it was just a tremendous feeling of satisfaction as we work to get that developed and as we work to have it created and to make it happen. Enough
Thank
said.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Congressman. I just want to say, too, the general message is in the epidemic. But right now, like you're saying, with the budget is saying not on this particular national watch, right? And you're absolutely right. Without these resources, the clock will reset. And as a matter of fact, this is the first year, and I think in 18 years, they're not, the government has decided not to commemorate World AIDS Day. And that's the politics of memory, right? It's a way to, historically, when we as a nation stop commemorating stuff, is we stop the reminders. And then and then the thing you see historically after that is an attempt to erase and change the narrative on this. And so at a time when Black and brown people are being, are the most impacted, the resources get cut. And we've seen this horror story before. Along with that is what we've been told about it. If we look at the screen, we can see that African Americans, the most impacted, aren't doing anything different from other people. It's just when the resources get to a certain point and they're not available and the conversation needs to change, we're the most severely impacted.
And
that's what that shows. Mhm.
Yeah, and you're so right there, because these guys made sure that they, along with State Representative Connie Howard, that resources got to the African American community that originally were not coming, and were certainly not coming in the proportion of need. You know, I always say that if you don't remember where you came from, you don't really have as much appreciation for how you got to where you are. And you miss the opportunity to move ahead at the speed for which you ought to be going. And so I just can't reinforce enough the role that they played, and the role that Michael continues to play in this big arena that we call the public, and public health, and what public health actually means.
Mm-hmm. Could I just ask, Meyer, a couple of questions? You know, one of the issues have always been, well, initially as we started out, I remember practicing, obviously before this was a recognized disease, and I remember the first patient that came to me who eventually turned out, this was prior to having a test that we could make a diagnosis of HIV infection, who came to me because of a problem with lymphadenopathy. And so, we went through the usual kind of thing of evaluating her for lymphadenopathy, giving her a course of antibiotic, doing some blood tests and so forth, which did not give us an answer, nor did it change anything very much. So ultimately, during that time, we decided, that it would be appropriate to do a biopsy of her lymph node. And obviously, at that point, nobody really was able to know exactly what was wrong. But then I remember getting a call from this pathologist because he wanted to know a little bit more about the patient. And he said, he said, I'm going to send this slide out to Mayo and to some other, places that, he said, but, he said, I can't figure this out. He says, he says, he said, I've been looking at, all kinds of slides and things, and said, he said, obviously this is an adult, but when I look at it, this looks like something that we see that they see in children called DiGeorge syndrome, which, we obviously later on found out that the manifestation was similar to that in terms of what it did to tissue. But we, were not able to make a diagnosis in this person at that point in time. Later on, when the test became available and we were able to make a diagnosis and, test her, and then and she turned out, having HIV infection. But the big thing that I experienced during my practice after, this became a significant issue was that the attitude of people in terms of people did not want to be tested. People had a misconception of what testing, and I could understand some of it in the sense that they were saying, well, I don't really want to know because there's nothing you can do for me. And I don't want to deal with the stress of having something that you can't do anything about. So I just, not understanding, the other ramifications that you may have something that need to be contained, but without you knowing that, you're not going to do anything to help to contain that. And
That's right.
so all that process. But, in these times when we've made such progress in terms of what is available and what can be done in terms of controlling the disease, this same kind of attitude and ignorance still, to some extent, not to that level, but to some extent, still prevails and still cause a significant problem in terms of how well that this disease can be managed and controlled. So if you don't know, you don't get tested, and so you not only your life is going to be shorter. But not only that, that if you're out there and you're active in terms of sexual activities, that also you're probably going to be a carrier or an infector of other people. And so, but I'm saying, I think that as we sort of look at it, it's the stigmata and all the other issues that surround it is almost as bad as the disease. And at this point in time, of what can be done with a lot of people that is not done. And I understand that, as Dr. Meyer was saying in here, the amount of resources that is needed to help to get this information, to help to change things. If folks could understand that, okay, I might, this is something that even, if I have cancer, do I not get treated, even though it could be a devastating disease that can certainly shorten my life? But I mean, how do we, we have to obviously need more resources so that we can do better. We can educate more folks, and I think and try to, when I say that, not just the people that are infected, oftentimes it's the other people that have this bad, that carry this bad message that is hindering further progress.
And so I just want to say you're right on, because there's another infection that's worse than HIV. It's called stigma. It's an infectious disease of the mind. It kills more people than HIV ever could. It spreads so fast. It's when we hold these false things. We just saw slides. People living with HIV aren't doing anything different than people who are living without HIV. Sexually, when they are, substance use experiences, they're not doing anything different.
Right. Dr.
Okay.
Mike, give me
I'm
that
sorry.
definition again.
Say it again.
Let me hear that definition.
Stigma. I said it's an infectious disease of the mind. It kills more people than HIV ever could, and it spreads faster than HIV ever could. It's when we hold these false truths about something, and we hold on to them so tight that they impact our health of our communities, of so many other things. Even though we saw the evidence that people living with HIV aren't doing anything different. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Injection drug sharing, actually experiencing it less. Sexual practice. Sorry?
Know where I got it from.
Say it one more time.
I say, when you hear me use it, know where I got it from.
Okay, please. And you know what? I love that you said that, because that's how we're going to stamp out HIV, by actually saying it, normalizing it, and making us realize our own stigma. So if you out there and you went and got your cholesterol checked last year, but you didn't get your immune system checked because you think it's not you, boom, that's stigma. That's what this slide is. Because why? Because boom, next slide. You can get HIV so many other ways that don't involve sexual health, sexual contact, that don't involve injection. Pastor Ty asked the question. Up until now, the screening has been free. So you do have to get engaged and get your screening while they're still free, because they're trying to stamp them out. All right. And then why? Because I mentioned you have to ask your doctors, because I put this in here because the matrix is what we all in when we think we're not impacted by HIV. They got you in the matrix because it impacts your immune system. Right? This slide is in 2012. They declared. I'm sorry, 2023. They said PrEP can be free, but you got to be decided to be quote high risk. Then PrEP grew here, but not amongst African Americans, not amongst the people bearing the brunt. We already established that. PrEP coverage, prevention. I'm talking. It's available. We're not using it. And so many other things. I know we got to wrap up, and I have this next group coming in, but we have to do the cultural work because we still have a resource, and that's us having these conversations and normalizing them. We have to do. And that's how we're going to stamp out HIV, protect our tribe. I always talk about that and get active about it. We always say you have to get active or politics is going to do you. Right now, we got an example of politics trying to do us. So you do have to advocate, and don't wait for some other agency or myself to advocate. You call, you advocate, get involved now. I'll stop there because I have the next group that I have to hop off. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I can't
Well,
hear
simply
anything. So this.
can you hear me now? So simply outstanding. Yolanda Williams is here and she says, good evening. Dorothy is here and she says, beautiful men, Mark and Ben, they were. She also says that they looked out for us at the jail. And of course, many, many thanks to Congressman Davis during those early years and that struggle. So Maya, that was beautiful. People are asking, thank you for explaining what the matrix was. We did have a question. That's what I had texted you. When the reporter asked, what was the matrix? Was that the name of the
matrix is what's in our mind when we didn't get screened. So to that person that asked, if you didn't get screened this year, you, like so many other people, are caught up in this matrix because HIV impacts your immune system, not somebody else you think you're not. But that'll be mine until next Monday, Nikki. Sorry. I have to go.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, as she said, it is time for our Until Next Mondays. So we'll start with you, Doug. Until next Monday.
Yeah, so Nikki, this is a particularly sad thing for me because I began my medical career when we didn't know about what AIDS was, but we saw people die because we couldn't treat them. And here we are now having treatment, and now we're withholding it. I will tell you that when I was in Washington, D.C., I learned about the social determinants of health. I learned about structural institutional racism. I learned about critical race theory. Nobody brainwashed me. Nobody rammed it down my throat. And to me, I think this is a real tragedy right now that we are burning those books rather than reading them.
Wow.
Profound.
Wow. All right, Dr. Miller, you're until next Monday.
Well, I think, I tried to get, we have to begin to, there is medication available, but we also have to we got to begin to come up with better ways to spread and to teach those that are ignorant so that they won't be ignorant. Now, some of that is beyond that because some of it is that people have in their ignorance, they have profound determination that will not allow them to open up their minds and be able to see the information because there's something there that is blocking that wall. There's a wall that is blocking them from seeing the humanity of the situation. And so because of that, they don't see the need, or they see something different about people that are getting this disease, not knowing that they could easily be one of those things. So be one of those people that are infected, as Dr. Maya pointed out, that you don't have to get this by sex. There are other means that you can get infected. So I think that any time that there's a problem, that especially in infectious disease, when we as we started looking at infectious disease, obviously this one is different than COVID, but we looked at how COVID, an infectious disease, killed millions of people. Well, this disease has killed a large number of people as well and continue to do so, even though there is medication that can stop the process. We're not able to utilize that because of barriers and because of ignorance and because of all those stigma that people have, and people, just do not want to, people just do not want to know, and that's a that's a terrible and difficult thing for someone who can kind of understand medicine to understand why is it that people don't want to know.
Well, we're not
What you
burning
don't know
books.
can't
We will,
kill you. Yeah.
that's right. We will not be burning books and we will not be left in the dark. Well, Pastor Si, you're until next Monday.
First of all, I want to say thank you, Congressman Davis, even for having this platform. I think it's really wonderful and beautiful that we have this concerning people's health. And thank you, Dr. Maya. I know she's gone, but even that was a grand wealth of information, even for me. And I will be an advocate to pass on to those in my circle the importance of getting your immune system tested. Never heard of that before in terms of just in terms of as not only the HIV, but in overall health. And so, but also it speaks to the fact, and the Congressman alluded to it a little bit, this issue about health justice, right, and being advocates for health. It's very immoral, and I want to be very clear. It's very immoral, it's very criminal, and it's very diabolical that there is treatment and cure available, and because of policy and interference, that is being kept from those who could really use it. And that's definitely immoral. I think to one of the highest degrees, because even as we're speaking about HIV, what about cancer, things and other things, right? And which if science and medicine has provided a treatment and a cure, then it is evil in my eyes as a pastor to prevent that which can help people be healed, and by policy and for whatever other reasons. So to next Monday, I want to say, as Dr. Meyer was talking, I'll leave you to next Monday to always remember Psalm 103 speaks about God's healing in two phases. One is his God who forgives all our iniquities, and that means God who can heal the spirit. And then it goes on to say God who can heal us of all of our diseases, which speaks to the healing of the body. And I would encourage everyone to be concerned and to do all they can to pursue that which heals the spirit as well as heals the body. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Outstanding, outstanding. Well, Congressman, as always, take us home.
Well, until next Monday, we just finished Thanksgiving. And so we give thanks for this Monday. And we also give thanks that we have such a profound, activated, engaged group who come with us on Mondays to have this discussion. And I think of the comprehensiveness of it and how important it is. I was really thinking of how impactful our faith institutions have been, because even then, we used to go out on Sundays and we had a little grant one time, and we would buy up the kitchen, whatever it was, and everybody who would stay for the seminars would get a free dinner, or they just get an opportunity to eat dinner. And of course, some of the best cooking comes on a Sunday afternoon when people do it at church. They sometimes used to do it and bring it to church. But we did that with Sharita Logan and a group that she had at the time called Sankofa. And we had wonderful experiences with serious adults, mature adults. They weren't all children, because children don't always be in those kind of settings and in those environments. Certainly not as much as they should. So let me tell you, I've just had a great day. I mean, I've been in the airport half the day, flights changing and all those other things. But it started with a bang, ended with a bang. Thank you all so much. And until next Monday, let me just say thanks for being the Thanksgiving to a lot of people who benefit from what you give them each and every Monday. Thank you so much. Have a great night. And until then, we'll see you next Monday.
All
All
right.
right.
Good night,
Thank
everybody. Take care.